You're listening to the Empowering Process podcast with your host, Gail Kraft. Listen as she holds frank discussions around how your purpose, being present, and trusting your power impacts your life. Whether you're an entrepreneur, leader, or developing your vision, you'll find wisdom and insights you can utilize right now. Welcome your host, Gail Kraft.
Hello, everybody. This is Gail Kraft from the Empowering Process podcast. And I have with me as a guest today, Sabrina Victoria. Sabrina Victoria has a company called Human Better 365. She's going to share just part of her story. She started out as a struggling mom, single after escaping 13 years in a narcissistic abusive relationship. She has a tenacity for optimistic spirit, yay, and has inspired fans worldwide and helped endless amounts of people break through and discover their own untapped talents and immense potential. Now, creator and CEO of Human Better 365, a human transformation company. We'll talk about transformation. Creator of the Her Nation community and founder of the Sober Society community, speaker, entrepreneur, and author. What a mouthful. Sabrina, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Super excited.
It's going to be fun. It always is fun. So we talked a little bit, both you and I have many stories, right? As everybody does. We're not developed by one event that shapes us, right? We choose how we get shaped by the many events in our life. And there's one in particular that we kind of chit-chatted about, and that is how religion plays into our lives, right? And for me, I was raised, my brother said that we were raised as heathens. We did not go to church, temple, synagogue, nothing, right? And what that meant was we did not have community. And there's a whole lot around my issues with community growing up. And by not having community, by the time I was like 13, I had a friend of mine, and we literally went elbow to elbow and went every weekend from church to church. We spend a day, well, let's take a look at the Lutheran church, and go in and we'd sit through a service. Wow. And then we come out and we would take notes. Let's go to a Protestant church, and we would take notes. Let's go to a synagogue, right? And so we would go to these every weekend and take notes as to what we experienced while we were there.
Wow.
And honestly, Sabrina, it wasn't good. It was never good. Because we saw through, because we weren't raised with the belief system, because neither was she. She was also a heathen. we didn't have any preconceived ideas as to what is right or wrong when it comes to religion.
Wow.
And we saw the blasphemy, we saw the control, we saw the fear being preached from the altars.
You did this at 13?
Yes. Yes.
Wow. What great insights.
Right. Well, the two of us would talk about it, right? So, when you have two, the Bible says two together, man, yeah. You got power. So that made me become curious about, well, what is this all about? And there is value in the Bible. There is value in the stories, just like there's value in what Aesop shared, right?
Yeah.
Look at the message, not as a control mechanism. Now, you had a family that changed religion. And they changed it to Jehovah Witnesses.
Yes.
So talk about being a child growing up as a Jehovah Witness first. Yeah. Let's start there.
Yeah. So my parents were Catholic. When I was 3 years old, somebody came knocking on their door, as Jehovah's Witnesses do. And by the time I was 5, they were fully baptized and converted. And if you don't know, Jehovah's Witnesses don't celebrate any of the holidays. Now, I don't remember a life with holidays. I was so young. So people always ask me like, don't you miss it or don't you wish? And I don't know, because I've never had it. Just kind of how you grew up without religion or that community or the rules. You don't know what it's like really to like feel all of this heaviness unless you've actually grown with it. So I don't really know, but there's no birthdays, no Christmas, no Halloween, no Easter. They don't salute the flag. They don't take blood transfusions. There's a whole plethora of things that kind of cast you out as a outsider a little bit, because it's different than everybody else. So school, there's a lot of time spent in the library during the holidays, birthdays, having to sit when they salute the flag. When I was growing up, we saluted the flag every morning, and I had to sit in my seat like a crazy person. So there's a lot of context that I've grown up with over the years of being used to being different and being looked at weird. I did that for a long time.
So I do have a friend who there's a long story, and I'm not going to tell her story to share because it's hers to share, not mine. But she ended up with her grandparents as a Jehovah Witness, her and one of her sisters, and did the door to door and all that stuff. And she ran away with a boy that she married at like 18 or 19, and they closed the doors on her.
Yep.
What this meant was that she could not communicate with her sister.
Yep.
And her sister got married and had babies, and she couldn't communicate until the sister begged the fathers for permission. And she just celebrated her niece's graduation from college.
Wow.
Right. But it's a permission. She needed to get permission for her and her sister to even talk to each other. And it was years before that could happen. So it really is a patriarchal control society.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so as a result, what happened to you?
So everything was fairly fine until I became boy crazy. And
those boys,
there's a lot of rules around sex and around marriage and around dating. So right around age 15 is when I started to kind of like do a little rebellious, and ended up in the back room a few times having counsel and having scriptures read to me as far as conduct goes. But started dating secretly here and there, whether it was dating outside the religion, which is a huge no-no, or dating inside the religion, which has a bunch of rules around it. Several different stories that we could go off into, but the main issue that happened, or the main challenge that I went through, was when I was 20, I ended up pregnant by a man who was not my husband and who was also not a Jehovah's Witness.
2 slaps against you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So
it was horrifying.
Did you get stoned?
Yeah, you can say that, actually, literally and physically, and metaphorically. Sorry. So I actually hid it. So what happened was I was having premarital sex, and I was at work 2 days in a row, fell asleep on the files. I worked for eye doctor's office. I was filing. I fell asleep on the files, and I'm like, something is wrong with me. What is going on? Pregnancy obviously is the first thing when you're having premarital sex and you're not using protection, which I was not. We can get into that. Went to Walmart on my break, stole a pregnancy test, the 3-pack, because I just didn't, I don't even know. Took it in my purse, went into the bathroom stall at Walmart, took all 3 of them, immediately plus signs. I read the directions 62 times because I was like, there has to be something wrong with this. It clearly says that it could take up to 3 minutes for the plus sign to pop up. And these were like within milliseconds. So these are obviously defective.
All 3 of them.
Yes. This is what I was trying to tell myself. Obviously, as the walls are closing in on me and I just can't freaking breathe, I'm shaking. I come to the realization that I am probably pregnant. Call up my boyfriend at the time, tell him I need to meet him. I never went back to work, met him at his work. We went to a place called Baker Square. We sat down. This is in Chicago. We sat down, had a conversation. I pulled out one of the pregnancy tests, like in a napkin, and showed it to him. He was not surprised, which makes me feel like he might have done it on purpose. Either way, 2 days before my entire family is supposed to move from Chicago to North Carolina is when all of this is happening. 2 days before we're supposed to move our entire family out of state is when I find this out. Go home, open up the yellow pages. Back then, look up the word abortion and find a clinic. Him and I went the very next day to a clinic. We saw all of our options because I am pro-choice. I am still pro-choice. And we went through abortion videos, adoption videos, and have a baby videos. We decided to keep my son, who is now 18 years old, and
so he
moved.
decided with you to, so
Yes.
together you made this. This is very
Yep.
important. Together.
Yep.
Okay.
Together.
So now you have to tell the family.
Well, I moved with my family. I did not tell them. I lived for 4 months with my parents until one day, my parents aren't stupid, especially my mom, took me outside one day, 4 months. So I'm getting a little belly. I was a size 2 when this happened. So like, I'm obviously gaining weight. My mom probably hears me throwing up in the bathroom. I'm on the phone till like 3 a.m. with my boyfriend. I mean, it was obvious something was going on. So they pull me outside some random day and my dad yells, "What is going on? Tell us what's going on." And I didn't even flinch. I just like, "I'm pregnant." Just like, bleh. And just not niceness. So kicked me out that day. Get out of my house. Don't call us. Don't talk to us. Disgrace. We're not giving you any money. Called me a plethora of names that I will not repeat. And within 24 hours, I called up my boyfriend, obviously hysterical, crying. I will say my mom was very calm. My mom's like, "What's the plan? Tell us what the plan is. Do you have a plan?" Of course, I don't have a plan. I'm scared shitless.
Right.
So I call up my boyfriend. I'm bawling my eyes out. He's like, "I'll come get." He literally gets in a car that night and is at our house within like 12 hours. By the next morning, he's there. So my parents, by that point, I'm assuming my mom called my dad down overnight and they had a conversation, I assume. I don't even remember sleeping. I was just a wreck. They came to me the next day when I was leaving, stuffing the car full of all of my clothes, like a little freaking Toyota Corolla, whatever I could fit in there. And they asked me, they're like, "Is this what you want to do? Like, are you sure?" But at that time, they had showed me so much like hatred, so much like no love, no patience, I was hysterical. I was embarrassed. I didn't feel, it was so much heaviness. And I just left. I left. And within 24 to 72 hours, my parents and my entire community knew about the pregnancy. You have to tell them. My parents then knew. It was this whole thing. They announced it at the podium. They actually like get up in front of the Kingdom Hall, the church, and they say Sabrina Victoria, or, is disfellowshipped for, this and that. You have to talk to these people. It's this whole thing that you have to go through. And I was completely cut off from the entire community I had ever known in my whole life and my entire family.
So you moved. Did you go back to Chicago?
Yeah.
With a man who is the father of your child.
Yeah.
And, together you had decided to keep the child.
Yeah. And we're broke.
You're broke. Right. And
yep.
So what did you do?
We're broke. We were living in an apartment with 12 people, 2-bedroom apartment. We had 1 bedroom. There was 4 people in 1 bedroom and like 6 people in the living room, mattresses on the floor, no dressers. We were in a warrior's den. He was in a multi-level at that point. So like the owner of the multi-level was doing these warrior dens where like a whole bunch of people would split rent so that you could put the money into your business and grow exponentially. So I did my first like 8.5 or those last 4 months of pregnancy on a 9-inch blow up mattress on the floor. Horrific. And had the baby, lots of tears, lots of crying, not wanting to do this, getting thrown into a whirlwind, as anybody, any single mom. It doesn't even matter what the story is. It doesn't even matter if there's a religion. Being a single mom is difficult.
To say the least.
Yeah.
Having been there myself. Yes.
Yeah. It's difficult.
Yeah.
So 3 months in, my son is born. We're at the Kingdom Hall at the church. That's what they call it, a Kingdom Hall. And I'm with I almost said his name, my son's father, myself, the baby. And I get pulled into the back room by 3 elders, 3 men in the congregation. Elders is like the highest ranking. They sit me down. They're like, hey, good job. Good job doing all the things. Good job hanging out. Good job. And, showing up, even though I'm getting no attention, no one's talking to you. Nobody even acknowledges you. You're like a ghost, but you have to still go to repent to show your love to God. So, and then they say, but by the way, you're confusing a lot of the people within the congregation because of this whole plain house thing. So you have to either marry your son's father or like you guys need to separate and break up. You can't be playing this whole house thing. You have to make a decision on what you want to do. And I wasn't in love with him. I just wasn't. I wasn't in love with him. I knew I wasn't in love with him before I even got pregnant, or before I even found out I was pregnant. So I leaned on God and had a conversation with him and said, I need to do this for my baby, for God, for my family, for my community, for myself, my spirituality. We can't be together anymore. You need to move out. I'm like standing my ground all powerfully and all firmly in this bubble of religion and God.
And no plan.
And no plan. Just so stupid. Like so naive and so stupid. He fought for maybe about a week, telling me that I was crazy and stupid, like in a loving way. Like, we got to work this out. Are you sure this is what you want? Plethora of tears and yelling and all of the stuff. But I was standing firm. I hadn't talked to my mom in like forever. I have a baby. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going through postpartum. My boobs hurt. Like, I'm a mess mentally and emotionally on so many levels. Plus we're broke. So just not in my right mind. He leaves. And not only does he leaves the state and gives me 0 child support. I wasn't even thinking. So I'm on minimum wage job with a baby and a car and a house or an apartment. We moved out right before I gave birth. We moved out. We have our own apartment. And I'm just drowning in debt. The elders that had me make that decision are nowhere to be found, like not interested in having any conversations with me. Nobody to help financially, nobody there to help to support me mentally, emotionally, or financially. And I'm drowning, literally drowning in crazy thoughts of suicide, wanting to literally kill my baby, throw him against a window or a wall, throw him out the window, leave him at a fire station, bawling my eyes in the bathroom every single night in the dark, just wanting to die, digging in the couch cushions for 42 cents to put gas in my car because I'm negative $57 in my bank account and I have no money for food, no money to get to work, no money to get him to the babysitters, nothing. Absolutely devastating at 21 years old, dealing with all of that stuff in complete isolation.
And it's the complete isolation that is the devastating part of this, because we're a social being and connection feeds our soul.
Yeah.
Right. And when we're lost, sometimes we just need someone to blow off steam too. Don't fix me, just hear me.
Yeah.
Right. So kudos that your son is 18. You didn't throw him out the window.
Yes.
Right.
And he's amazing.
Right. And
Yeah.
so how did you put your big girl panties on and get out of that?
Oh, dude. I actually didn't, to tell you the truth. I did not. I mean, if I'm being completely honest, I fell into the arms of a man who had money. Even though he had red flags stapled all over his body, I could see from a mile away that he was incredibly toxic. But I was so desperate for attention, so desperate for stability, so desperate for a good home for my son. I mean, I couldn't afford anything. I was getting eviction notices on my apartment door every other month. My car was getting repoed out of the parking lot. I mean, it was horrible. Moved in with him very quickly. He told me all I had to do was care for the house. And then very, very subtly and methodically, without me even knowing it, again, just being dumb, naive, he convinced me to move out of my place, move into his, quit my job, work for his company, get rid of my phone, use his phone, get rid of my car, use his car. And before I know it, I look around and he is in control of everything. I have no say, I have no money, and I have no way of leaving.
Kind of like being a Jehovah Witness.
Yes.
Right.
Very much so.
Right. And so I
Yep.
do want to say a little something about narcissism, because a lot of my conversations, this is not an unusual story. A lot of men too, but mostly women fall into narcissistic relationships. And this is just how they are.
Yeah.
There's no fixing someone who has a narcissistic disorder.
Yeah.
It is, and I hate to use the word disorder, because it's not a disorder. It's who they are.
Yeah.
Right. They are not methodically doing this to control you. This is how they believe it should be.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So they see no wrong in what they're doing. They actually believe that they are creating this castle around you. You're the
Yep.
queen, and I am providing you everything.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Except your freedom.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right.
100%. Yep.
So
by this point, I had, going back to the religion, I had gotten back with Jehovah's Witnesses at this point, leading a totally double life. So completely lying to the elders in order to get back with God, and get back with my parents. And probably about a year into that, and I'm with this man who's abusing me, by the way. I decide that it's called fading, is what it's called within the religion. So it basically means you're back in, you're good with God and your family and the community, everyone's talking to you, but then you just slowly start to like fade away.
mm-hmm.
And so I was so frustrated with the situation that I was put in. I was so frustrated with the way that they handled everything. I was so frustrated with just the lack of love and community. And I was starting to see, as you were saying, the hypocrisy in it. I started to question everything. I started to dig deep. But at this point, I had started to dig into personal development and mindset and power and voice, and just started to really see some obvious characteristics within the religion and within the people that just didn't sit right with me. It just didn't sit right with me. So I led a double life with my parents for a very long time, for years, even after I had already left, because we were in two different states. So it's very easy to just kind of like fake it once you know enough. And then one day I had a conversation with them years later, and I had a conversation with every single one of them separately. My sister, my brother, my mom, and my dad, all separate conversations about no longer being interested in the religion, and that they were going to have to make a decision on whether or not they wanted to keep me in their life or not.
And that's a very difficult thing to do.
Oh, Yeah.
but it is so empowering. So I will say that about 2016, I believe, is when I walked away from the last family member that I would walk away from. Right. Others are not toxic to me.
Yeah.
And it was someone that had been basically my best friend my entire life. And I just stopped accepting responsibilities that was not mine. And that's how I kept
Yeah.
peace in the family. I said, yep, 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 nail me to the wall. Yes, that's my fault. And I stopped.
Yeah.
And I said, until you start accepting responsibility for, and I listed off, you've done this, right? Right? Yes. Okay, you've done that, right? Right. Right. I went through like a list of 4 or 5 things. And I said, so therefore, it's your responsibility, not mine. And until you get that, I have to leave. And I walked away and left her standing on the street as I got in my car and drove away.
Wow.
And, it broke my heart, but it was something I had to do for me.
Yeah.
And that's a tough thing to learn, is that we're not here to fix anybody, especially those of us who are coaches.
Yeah.
I'm not here to fix you guys.
Yep.
If you come to me, I mean, I have a client who, she even said one time, well, I'm not feeling good. You're not making me feel good during a session. I'm like, well, that's not what I'm here for. So if that's what you're looking for, guess what? You got the wrong coach.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm here to teach you how to face yourself. Right. And how to
Yeah.
become strong in yourself, not lean on me.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yep.
so that was, kudos to you for making that choice, knowing the result could be alone again.
Yeah. Yes.
Right.
That's the biggest thing. Yeah.
Right.
That's the biggest thing.
Right. And so, so tell me about the day that you finally left your marriage and started to put your life together on your own terms.
Yeah. So first of all, I've never been married.
Oh, okay.
I was with that man for 13 years. Basically the turning point was one day, 8 years in, I'm on the floor in the bathroom having a total mental breakdown in the dark, just with the duration of toxicity, mental, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, financial abuse. He kept all of the money. I had very little in my account at any given time. He stayed poor. I did a Google search. Google saved my life. That's what I tell everybody. I Googled, why is my boyfriend bullying me? Because I didn't know any other vernacular other than that. And the entire world of narcissism just hit me right in the face. Watched like one video, read a couple of things, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I never knew. I thought I was the crazy one this whole time. He had convinced me that I was the drama queen, that I was over emotional, that I was too sensitive, that I'm asking too much, I'm not strong enough, whatever. So learned about empathy, codependency, like I said, power of voice, money. And so I opened up a secret bank account. I opened up a secret storage unit. I started 3 online secret businesses, and it took me 4 years, and that's a whole crazy story. But 4 years, I collected $50,000, and I walked away a random day. I still remember where I was when the whole thing went down. But I left with my son, our clothes, and my bicycle. And I started completely from scratch again with a mattress on the floor, but this time with just so much power from my original mattress on the floor story.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And, and sometimes that happens, right? We end up with the mattress on the floor,
Yeah.
More than once. But what I love about this one, what I think is delicious about this one, is that you walked away knowing you were going to be on the mattress from a point of power.
Yeah.
Right. And what that means, I have a love-hate relationship with most words, and I have a love-hate relationship with the word power. Ooh. Because most people, when they hear power, they think, hunt, kill, power. And that's not it at all. That's not power. That's really fear. right?
Oh,
The word power to me means that I am so centered and so sure and so confident that you can't push me over. It's like if you're in karate and you've got the right position, right? Someone can walk by and push you and you're not going to move,
yeah.
right? But if I just move one foot slightly out of balance, I can be pushed over very easily,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
that sense of power is, it's not me forcing myself to stay in position. I am in position and you were in position
Yeah.
because you understood, you did the research and you understood that you were putting up with this. So what healing did you start doing and what are you doing now?
Oh, what healing? I mean, it's continuous. And I think that's the main thing that I love to tell people is there's never a time when the healing and the learning stops. I mean, the triggers, I still to this day, 6, 7 years out from that relationship, um, still every once in a while get some sort of crazy trigger. But I can now self-aware of it. I can pinpoint it. I know to look for it. I know the feelings that arise, and I am gracious and patient with myself in figuring it out. And it's very important for me to figure it out. Um, the main thing for me is that I've carried with me throughout all of this. And the main point that I love to share with people is all of these things, all of these struggles that we've been through, they teach us one thing. If we're still alive, they teach us one thing. And the one thing that it teaches us is so simple. It's everything's going to be okay. Like literally everything's going to be okay. And it's the mantra that I carry with me everywhere I go. Whenever I get any sort of feeling that comes up that feels stressful or anxiety filled, when we've had these crazy stories in our life of just insanity, it creates it should create such a beautiful feeling for us to recognize how strong we are. And when we look around, being able to reassure ourselves that we've made it this far, we've done it then, we can do it again, and everything's going to be okay. Everything will work out.
Right.
We're going to make it out alive.
Right. This too shall pass.
Yeah.
And it does. I mean, that is the universal law of polarity, I guess.
Yeah.
There's so many universal laws, but life is flowing and you're going to go up and you're going to go down. It's just how it is. As beautiful as life might be right now, know that there's a struggle waiting for you.
Yeah.
But it's a
And I
struggle.
think,
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, speaking of, before we got on this, we were speaking about the difference between spirituality and religion. And, I think that what you're saying right there has a lot to do with spirituality. Like where or how do you feel connected to the ebb and flow that's happening through your life?
Right, exactly. And that is the basis of what I do, right? It is tap into that center, right?
Yeah.
That center, that's who we are. And like you said, it's not a one and done thing.
Yeah.
I have many clients that will work together and then they're gone for 6 or 8 months and then they come back and we'll work together for another 3 or 4 and then they're gone and then they come back, right? Because you have to internalize. It's not like bam, 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 right? You've got it. It's like, here's the information. And it's like, okay, I'm at overwhelm. All right, take the information and internalize it. And after you've chewed it and digested it, come back for the next, right? As are you, as am I, because we are evolving every day.
Yeah.
And so I will have more and something new to share because I'm evolving as well.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what spirituality is. It's us evolving into more of a knowing of the universal laws. And the universal laws are, dimensional. It's huge, and that's a whole other conversation, which I'm about ready to get into. 2023 might be a very different year than this year on my podcast. I don't know.
I love that.
Right, I'm starting to step into let's talk about the untalkable, Let's talk about the things that people are afraid to talk about. I mean, these conversations people are getting more comfortable with. It's still a sore point for some people,
Yeah.
especially those who feel that's like they're being accused of being a narcissist, right? So, like I said, that's not a blame thing, because there are partners that you can find that will fit comfortably into that environment.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's what they are looking for, right? You were temporarily, right? You were looking for a savior temporarily, because that's what the narcissist is in that triangle, right?
Yeah.
But once you had your feet underneath you and you started to say, okay, what do I really want? You never asked yourself that question. You never had a chance to.
Exactly.
Most of us don't ask it, right? And when we get a chance to ask it and we find out, okay, this guy is controlling and he's doing this and he's doing that, I kind of like it because I don't have to think about those things. How can I thrive in this situation?
Yeah.
Or this guy is controlling and I don't have, and I want to control my own life. I cannot thrive in this situation. So I mean, there is no blame. It's just finding the right match.
I love that.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yep. And you just weren't the right match in the long run for him.
Yeah.
Right.
100. And I even told him that too, you know.
Right. Perfect.
That's the whole thing. I'm like, I'm just not the girl for you.
Right.
It's nothing to do with you or with me. It's just
Right.
I'm not the right girl for you.
Right. There you go.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
See? And so with that, Sabrina, how can people get in touch with you if they want to know more?
Yeah. So I make it real simple. I have a website. The website is my name, SabrinaVictoria.com. And you can find me, find out more about what I do, more about my story, and of course, find me on social media.
Absolutely. And everybody, thank you so much for listening to the Empowering Process podcast. If you like this, let us know. If a question came up, please put it in the comments. Maybe we'll get back together and answer your question, right? If you know somebody who maybe could benefit from this, please do share it out with them. And as always, I would love it for you to subscribe, because when you subscribe, you'll know every time I put an episode out there. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Sabrina.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Empowering Process podcast. Be sure to visit Gail at gailcraft.com to learn more about how she serves thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and goal seekers. And remember, if you like this broadcast, be sure to share and subscribe so you don't miss an episode.